Hello everyone. So today I wanted to come on the channel and talk to you about my experience about miscarriage. Miscarriage is way more common than a lot of us are made knowledgeable of, and I just want to let you know that if you had a miscarriage, you are not the only one, and I think the more information online that's provided for comfort for those who have suffered from miscarriage, the better. So let's get started. Let's see. My miscarriage happened, I believe, September 3rd of 2017, so that was last year. And I was so excited. I found out I was pregnant towards the end of the middle of August. And I believe my first appointment was August 24th, and it would have been about the 5-week mark for us. And so it was really exciting, but I didn't know much about what to expect at that first appointment, besides that the first ultrasound would be a transvaginal ultrasound, and that's when they put a stick in you and they put a condom over it, because it's too early for you to even have a ultrasound when they put the probe on the outside of your stomach, because your uterus is still too small. So me and my husband, we went to that first ultrasound, excited, not really knowing what to expect. I kind of wasn't expecting them to even do that ultrasound because I knew it was too early. But when we got there, we got in the room, he wanted to do the transvaginal to see what he could see. So when he put the probe in, he was looking for a sac at least. He was at least hoping to see a sac, and wasn't expecting to see the little bitty dot in there that would indicate that something was forming inside the sac. But when he put the probe in there, he could see a little bit of a sac, or what he thought was a sac. I remember him kind of like, he kept probing and moving it around. It was kind of uncomfortable, but he was trying to see something. And so he kept saying, you know, I think I see a sac, but I'm not sure. It's still too early, so, you know, don't be discouraged. We'll schedule you to come back next month when you're about 8 weeks, and around then we should be able to see a sac, the embryo forming in there, and be able to hear a heartbeat. So, you know, cool, that's fine. Like I said, I wasn't expecting to see much, because what I looked up on the internet, you know, you can't really see anything around 4 or 5 weeks. So days go by. My birthday is coming up. My birthday is around Labor Day weekend. So with me being pregnant and I don't really go out that much, I invited some friends over. My husband, to get him out the house, he went to, I want to say Atlanta or somewhere. He went somewhere with a friend to get out the house, so me and my girlfriends can have the house to ourselves. Mind you, one mistake I made during this miscarriage process was, well, of course I didn't know I was going to have a miscarriage. So I'm excited. This is my first pregnancy. I had been praying for a child. I had told my mother in a really exciting way. I told my best friend, and of course I had told my husband. And then that weekend when all the girls came over, I was like, you know, the reason I'm not drinking tonight, or we don't have alcohol, we have punch, is because I'm pregnant. And so everybody was all excited or whatever, and we had a good time that night. I had cooked, we had made snacks and sweets, and had punch and played games and listened to music and danced around or whatever. So that was Saturday. And so that next day, that Sunday, everybody left except for a few of my close friends. And, you know, I was fine that morning. We ended up going to Cracker Barrel to eat. We came back home, and they stayed for a little bit longer, and then they left. So I had just started school. Yeah, I had just started school, working on my master's. And so I was sitting in bed, and I remember sitting in bed, and I remember having some mild discomfort, and so I was just pushing it to the back of my mind. And then I remember sitting there saying, I feel damp. period type of way. Sorry, TMI, but that's what I felt. And so I go to the bathroom and I wipe, and there's bright red blood like I've started my period. And so I'm freaking out, of course. I text my husband. Of course, he's concerned because he's not even in town. He was going to be on his way back that day. He hadn't hit the road yet. And so immediately when I tell him, he's like, okay, I'm headed home. Meanwhile, I called the doctor, not the on-call doctor, I called the answering service. They called my doctor, which one thing I'm really happy about is he's going to call you back regardless. So he calls me back and he was like, yeah, you need to get to the hospital because, you know, I don't want to say it, but this could be impending early miscarriage. And so, of course, that's not what I wanted to hear. Mind you, a few days before this even happened, before the weekend got here, I had some mild pinkish spotting, and I was concerned at that point, but I also was trying not to be concerned because spotting is very common, you know, at the beginning of a pregnancy because it's the embryo embedding into your uterine lining, and spotting can be expected. So I was trying not to freak out then. But after the bleeding, after talking to the doctor, I started getting my stuff together. I called my mom, like, hey mom, I'm bleeding heavy. I'm headed to the hospital. And my mom was like, do you want me to come? Sorry, they're doing some work outside. So I hope it's not loud. But she was like, you know, do I need to come up there? Because I don't stay in the same town as my mom. She's about an hour and 10 minutes away. And so I was like, no, that's fine. I'm going to call Kiera, which is my best friend, for her to meet me at the hospital until Daniel gets in town. So Daniel's headed home. I call Kiera. Kiera and her sister meet me at the hospital. They admit us to the labor and delivery triage so I can be monitored. Meanwhile, I'm still bleeding. The bleeding has not stopped. I'm mentally freaking out. Outside, I'm staying calm, but inside, I'm like, you know, trying as hard as I can to stay in faith and say, you know, to not speak it, because I'm a firm believer of speaking stuff into the atmosphere manifest things. That just like gives the devil leeway to run away with what you said. So I'm trying not to say I'm having a miscarriage. Trying to stay positive in my mind, trying to stay prayed up, trying to stay uplifted mentally. And so I believe they drew some blood so they can look at my pregnancy levels. And I can't think right now. I don't know why I can't figure what the levels are called. But to look at them and see if they were decreasing from when I first got my levels drawn at that doctor's visit to indicate that I was pregnant. And so I had to call the ultrasound technician in because it was the weekend. They're not here on the weekend at the hospital. They're on call. So I had to wait for her to get in. And mind you, when I was having the bleeding and the early miscarriage started happening, I was 6 weeks. So a heartbeat should be able to be heard by then. So when I went down for the ultrasound, they finally called me down. She was doing still the transvaginal ultrasound, so she had to put the probe in, and she was looking. And I guess by policy or by protocol, they can't show you the screen, you know, and it's not her place to actually say what she's seeing. But I remember the ultrasound hurting so bad because she kept pushing, you know, like she wanted to see something. And, you know, she kept turning the volume on, and I could hear a pulse, a heartbeat, or what sounded like a heartbeat. But I knew that it was too slow to be a baby's heartbeat. It was mine that she was hearing in my femoral area, which is the inner part of your thigh. You have a really big artery right there. So that was my pulse she kept hearing. And I think she just kept trying to push around to find signs of a baby, but she didn't. And so meanwhile, it was hurting. And as long as she kept probing around and the look on her face, I knew in my spirit she didn't see anything. And so, you know, tears were falling. I was crying. Not boohoo crying, but just like a silent crying, because I just knew, you know, nothing's there. So when she finished, I went to the bathroom, washed up, they wheeled me back to the bed. By this time, while I was going to ultrasound, Kiera and my husband had switched off. She left. He had made it into town. He asked me what was going on, and I told him. And, you know, pretty much the on-call doctor that came into triage was like, you know, I can't remember if he said that my levels had actually decreased or if at that time he wanted me to wait, but my doctor had told him over the phone that he wanted me to come into the office in 2 days, and so he can talk to me because it looked like signs of impending miscarriage and the ultrasound wasn't showing anything, and there wasn't much that they could do besides let the days go by and see what happened. If I was going to expel anything on my own. And so I went home. You know, whole time I'm sad, I'm cramping. The cramps hurt. They hurt pretty bad. They hurt worse than a period to me because my period wasn't that bad at that time. But they hurt pretty bad, and so every time I was having those bad pains in my abdomen, I would cry because, you know, I'm just thinking that's just me getting rid of what was supposed to be my child, you know. And so I was depressed. I'm not gonna lie, I was sad. Mind you, I'm miscarrying on my birthday. You know, my birthday is September 5th. All this started happening around September 3rd. So as the days go by, I'm just like, you know, wow, what a great birthday. So I go to the doctor, and he takes us in the office, me and my husband, and he tells me, hey, you know, this looks like what's going to be called a early miscarriage. And he describes it as a blighted ovum, and I'm going to tell you what that means. A blighted ovum is when an embryo implants in the uterus but doesn't develop into a baby. If you have a blighted ovum, you may have dark to brown bleeding from the vagina early in miscarriage. If you had signs or symptoms of pregnancy like sore breast or nausea or feeling sick, you may stop having those symptoms. And that's according to the March of Dimes website. And so he was like, yes, it looks like it was a blighted ovum, and that's probably why we couldn't see much on the ultrasound that first time. And it looks like your pregnancy levels have decreased significantly. So we took some blood from you today, which they did. They took some blood from you from that appointment. And he said, I'm going to call you in about 48 to 72 hours, because I think the pregnancy levels half-life, they either increase significantly every couple of days or they'll decrease significantly every couple of days, at least by half if you're progressing, or by half in a negative way if you are having a miscarriage. And he says, so the blood we drew today, I've sent it off. I'm going to call you in a couple of days based off the numbers, and I'll confirm what's going on. So yeah, we left the doctor's office, you know, pretty sad. Like I said, in my spirit, I knew. I didn't want to say it, but I just knew, you know, as a woman, you know your body, you know, pretty well, you can tell. So he called me those few days later, and he was like, yes, your numbers have decreased, so we're going to have to declare this as an early miscarriage. I'm sorry, you know, we can, you know, after so many weeks, you can try again. You and your husband can start back trying, and, you know, hopefully you guys can get pregnant again. So that sucked, having to tell my mother, my best friend, my friends from the party who would text me like, oh, how you feeling? I'm like, oh, you know, I miscarried, blah, blah, blah. You know, all the excitement just went down the drain, and I'm just like, you know, was it me? Was I dancing around too much that first night? I mean, the night of the party? Or, you know, I kept thinking, what did I do? What could I have done differently to prevent that miscarriage from happening? And it's nothing you can do, y'all. In those instances, I mean, you don't know, but in a blighted ovum, the baby never formed. You're still going to have those pregnancy hormones, and those pregnancy levels indicate that you're pregnant because something is happening in your uterus, but you don't know the extent of if it's progressing or not until you start going to the ultrasounds, until you're able to actually see something on the screen and see how things are developing. But you know, it's a lot to think of, because on the spiritual side, I'm thinking, you know, I've sinned. You know, I'm married now, but I've sinned in the past. I've repented of things, but I'm just like, is this punishment for me for things I've done in the past, or things that I may have done that I hadn't even realized that I've sinned about and I haven't repented? You know, I'm just thinking, your mind's turning like, what could I have done? Why is this happening to me? I wasn't expecting this to happen to me. Mind you, I worked out, I was active, eating fairly healthy because my husband does, and it sucked. Like I said, I had been praying for that child, and then boom, miscarriage. One thing that you don't expect to happen to you, one thing that you're scared of. Every woman's scared during that first trimester, but you really don't expect it to happen to you. You're just waiting for those 12, 13 weeks to pass so you can be in the clear. And you know, like I said, after I've read what a blighted ovum is, you know, you could think, oh, or the outside person that hasn't experienced it can think, okay, well, there never was a baby in there, so you shouldn't be upset. But to a woman, when you get that first pregnancy test that says you're pregnant, and then you take another one and it says you're pregnant, and then you go to the doctor and they take your blood, or you pee in the cup and they say, oh, you're pregnant, that's your baby in your mind and in your spirit. That is my child, whether it's a dot, it's a bleb, it's the size of a poppy seed, it doesn't matter, that's my child. So that was the hardest part, because in my mind, I was becoming a mother, and then it was snatched from under me. And I just want women to know that it can happen to anybody. And you know, during those days where I was miscarrying in the days to follow, I looked at all types of videos on YouTube from women that had miscarriage stories. It was comforting to me. Yes, I was sad, and I probably shouldn't have been looking at it, but it was comforting to me for me to know that I was the only person this happened to. And so I just want to take a second and let you guys know some statistics about it. Miscarriage is when a baby dies in the womb before 20 weeks of pregnancy, and some women have a miscarriage before they even know that they're pregnant. There is a certain thing called chemical pregnancy, and it's a little bit below the spectrum of a blighted ovum. It's like when you have the hormones that spike, but nothing ever happens and it goes away. I'm going to try to insert a definition of that for you. But another key point, Marcherdon says we don't know all the causes of miscarriage, but problems with chromosomes and genes cause most of them. And in reference to that, I remember the doctor telling me, you know, it's nothing you could do. It could have been a chromosomal defect. That baby could have had a defect, and your body realized it and didn't let the pregnancy progress. It just terminated it on its own. So that's another thing. And I guess that's a positive way to look at it. You know, everybody wants a healthy baby with no disorders and things of that nature. So to think that that could have been the reason, there could have been something wrong with that embryo, and my body realized it and terminated it. But you know, very small comfort in a situation like that. Also, Marcherdon says it can take a few weeks to a month or more for your body to recover from a miscarriage. It may take longer to recover emotionally, of course. You have women that have had several children after a miscarriage and still mourn the loss of that child. They say talk to your healthcare provider about having medical tests before you try to get pregnant again. Most women who miscarry go on to have a healthy pregnancy later. But in the midst of when I was looking at those YouTube videos, I can say it was half and half with encouraging and discouraging, because some women, you know, got pregnant again immediately. Then you have some women, and if you're watching this and you're one of those women, I keep you uplifted in my prayers, because some women can miscarry 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times before they have a child, or they just keep miscarrying to the point where they either seek help, like in vitro, they adopt, or things like that, because they can't successfully carry through a pregnancy. And that's a tough pill to swallow. I thank God that I didn't have to endure several miscarriages, but there are women that go through that, and for those women, we need to keep them lifted up in prayer, because those are women that so long to be able to carry a child and birth a child, and for whatever reason, they cannot. So I just wanted to, like I said, do this video, let you guys know that you are not alone if you've had a miscarriage. And we as a community, which is weird to say, but we as a women who've had miscarriages, we are a community of our own. There are forums where we try to uplift and encourage others. So I just want you to know to stay encouraged, keep praying, because there are women, God can do amazing things. There are women that were barren in the Bible, that God can instantly give you a child. But I think your faith and the way that you live, that's a big thing. Following God's commandments and things like that really influence the process of conceiving, healthy pregnancy, and childbirth. And I'll get into my spiritual aspect of pregnancy and childbirth in my next video, because this will be a 3-part series. This first video is miscarriage. My second video will be on my natural birth tools, on how I was able to go through with my pregnancy and natural childbirth, and then my third video will be my labor and delivery story. So stay tuned for those. But just know that you are not alone. God loves you. We love you as a community. We stand by you, and I'm praying for those that have had miscarriages or have had even just one miscarriage and are scared to try again. To don't be completely discouraged. Put your faith on the line. Keep trying. You and your spouse, keep trying. Keep trying. Keep trying. And I will keep you lifted up in my prayers. I will say a special prayer for you tonight, that you can conceive your child and that you will be a wonderful mother. Stay tuned for the next series. If you guys want to hit me up, if you have questions, you can follow me on Instagram. It's Wigs by Brittany Shakur. I'll put that in the description box. Or you can email me if you see in this series some of the tools and you're interested in them. I'm going to try to provide links to everything, but if you have a question, you can email me at brittanyShakur@outlook.com. But I look forward to sharing more information about my delivery, my pregnancy, and my whole experience. Hope you guys enjoy. Bye.